So in this video, we're going to talk about supply. So if you watched the previous video on demand or the previous couple videos, this video is going to pretty much do the exact same thing. We're going to go through the law of supply, talk about quantity supplied versus supply, talk about producer surplus, and talk about the shifters of the supply curve. So the first thing we're going to talk about, the law of supply. There's a direct relationship between price and quantity. Okay, so demand, remember the law of demand say there's an inverse relationship. Here, there's a direct relationship. So price goes up, the amount that producers are willing to supply is also going to go up. Likewise, price goes down, the amount that producers are willing to supply will also go down with it. So there's a positive relationship. So again, as demand for ethanol pushes the price of corn higher, production of corn increases, okay? So there's a price increase, so will there be a quantity supplied. So price goes up, quantity supplied goes up, price goes down, quantity supplied goes down as well. So notice the supply curve, since it has a positive relationship, will have a positive slope, right? And the example I use a lot in classes, think about providing your services, your acumen, your knowledge that you have to help other students through tutoring. If you're to help other students tutor, right, what would you be willing to give up your time for? Would you be willing to do it for free? Some of you, maybe, nice souls, will be willing to do it for free, but a lot of you probably aren't willing to do it for free, all right? Well, what price would you be willing to do it for? Maybe $5 an hour, $10 an hour, 15, 20, 25, 30, right? And as the higher the price goes, the more and more of you would be willing to help tutor. Shoot, if I was going to get paid, $150 an hour to tutor, I would definitely be joining you guys in tutoring, right? So again, the higher that price goes, the more of you are willing to help tutor. As the price goes up, the quantity supplied will go up as well. So here's an example of our supply curve. Again, notice it's upward sloping. As price goes up from 20 to 40 to 60 to 80 to 100, our quantity also increases from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50. There's a positive direct relationship there. Price goes up, quantity goes up with it. So here, notice the height of the supply curve indicates the minimum price necessary to induce producers to supply that additional unit. So to supply that additional unit, the supply curve represents that minimum price. So just like with the demand curve represents that maximum price. Here, the supply curve represents that minimum price, okay? That minimum price that producers are willing to produce at. So an example, think about the tutoring example, okay? If some of you are willing to tutor for free, but Santa Fe is offering, let's say, $20 an hour to tutor, you're still going to tutor, right? You're still going to take the $20 an hour. You're experiencing a little bit of a surplus, okay? And that's what we call producer surplus. So very similar to consumer surplus, producer surplus is the difference the minimum price suppliers are willing to accept in the price that they actually receive, okay? It's the difference between the minimum price that suppliers are willing to accept and the price that they actually receive, okay? So again, you want to think about this as the difference between the minimum price they're willing to accept and the price that they actually accept, and also the supply curve and the price, okay? So here's an example. If our price is at $60 here, again, our quantity supplied is 30, we can find total producer surplus, the difference between the minimum price, i.e. the supply curve, and the price that's actually charged. In this case, $60, which gives us our total producer surplus. Here, again, you take the area of a triangle, our base here, which is 30, times our height, which is 60, times 1/2, gives us our total producer surplus, or the area here of this blue triangle. Okay, so likewise, supply versus quantity supplied. Same thing that we talked about with demand and quantity demanded applies here. So change in price affects quantity supplied. Again, it's a movement along the supply curve. Again, nothing's changing here. The same concept. If you understand demand versus quantity demanded, you understand supply versus quantity supplied. Okay, again, quantity supplied, we're moving up or down the supply curve due to a change in price. All right, so change in price, we're moving up and down the supply curve. A change in supply is caused by anything that can affect the supply curve, any shifter of supply. We're going to talk about those in just a second. But just like with demand, it can shift the supply curve. So a shift to the right is an increase in supply. Okay, so if the supply goes to the right, even though it sometimes messes students up sometimes, it looks like it's going down when it shifts to the right. But anytime it moves to the right, it's an increase. A shift to the left is a decrease. Okay, so make sure you know the differences there. Okay, so again, a change in supply is a shift of the supply curve. Increase in supply shifts the curve to the right. A decrease in supply curve shifts the curve to the left. And this is anything except for price that affects supply. All right, so likewise, market supply curve, again, it's just a horizontal summation of all the individual supply curves. So if you have 10 builders who each build 100 houses, the market supply is going to be 1,000 houses. Again, 10 builders, which each builds 100 homes, overall is going to equal 1,000 homes. So the last thing we're going to talk about here is the shifters of supply. What causes the supply curve to shift? The first is a change in resource price. So think about resource price is anything that's used to produce the good. Think about maybe milk or beef, grains would be a resource price. You think about automobiles, steel is a resource price. So here, an increase in the price of steel, now steel's more expensive. Now automobiles are more expensive. The supply will decrease for automobiles, okay? The reverse is true as well. If you have a decrease in the price of steel, the supply of automobiles will increase. And we see this with housing prices as well, especially recently with COVID-19. During COVID-19, housing prices and supplies for lumber, windows has skyrocketed. And subsequently, we've seen a decrease in the supply of new housing. Builders are stopping. They're waiting for prices to normalize before they begin building once again. So again, a change in resource price. All right, if it increases, it's going to decrease supply. If a decrease and increase in resource prices is going to increase our supply for automobiles. Number two, a change in technology. All right, so think about a good example here, the assembly line. Ford's assembly line increased the supply for automobiles back in the day and continues to do so today. You think about new technology, automated technology is going to increase supply. If it makes it more efficient or easier, cheaper to produce, it's going to increase supply. So technology can increase supply. Number three, number of sellers, right? As the number of sellers increases, so does the supply, right? So if more firms enter into the market and produces more, think about the surfboard market, as more firms produce surfboards, supply of surfboards will increase, okay? Supply of surfboards will increase, okay? As more producers leave, the supply will decrease, okay? All right, so both are true. So more sellers, higher supply. The less sellers, the lower supply will be. Again, when supply goes up, it's shifting to the right. When supply goes down, it's shifting to the left. Number four, changes in nature. Okay, so nature can have an impact on supply, whether it's cold weather in Florida in the supply of oranges and orange juice, or whether it's oil refineries on the Gulf Coast shutting down due to hurricanes. You see this picture here from the oil refineries on the Texas coast that were shut down due to Hurricane Harvey. That can impact supply. All right, so here refineries had to shut down due to flooding. Therefore, the supply of gasoline decreased because there was less refineries open, less gasoline being produced, supply of gasoline decreased, okay? And then finally, taxes. Taxes can affect cost and therefore supply. So as taxes go up, we would also expect that the supply would go down, okay? Again, it's more expensive to produce, businesses are going to produce less. So think about the 10% yacht tax, that we talked about in the previous chapters, right? That reduced the supply or the producers, the yacht producers, reduce their yacht supply, reduce their yacht production due to those taxes, okay? So again, taxes can affect supply. decreasing taxes can increase supply, all right, and will do so. Okay, so which of the following would most likely increase the supply of beef? So take a moment, think about your answer, pause the video if you need to. If you're back and you have your answer, the correct answer should be A. Again, lower prices of grains used to feed cattle is a resource price. Here, lower resource price is going to increase supply. B, C, and D, or B and C would all affect demand. Answer choice D, an increase in the cost of transporting beef products would actually decrease supply, right? Again, transportation is a resource price for beef. Increasing that should decrease supply. All right, so A here is our correct answer. All right, so in the next video, we'll talk about a market equilibrium. All right, talk about supply and demand and how these forces interact, and talk about shifting these supply and demand curves. So before you either watch the next video or attend class, make sure you have watched the videos on supply and demand so that you are prepared to really learn about this next topic, which we'll continue to build upon as we go through the semester. So if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free, email me, reach out to me. I'd love to answer any questions that you may have. And until next time, have a great rest of your day, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon.